Well, buddy, I secured that land. Yeah, we're gonna keep it wild. I knew you'd appreciate that.
After years of complete silence, Eustace Conway, the man who walked away from modern civilization to live as the last American man, has finally spoken. Moments ago, in an emotional and unexpected appearance, he revealed truths that no one saw coming. For decades, Eustace lived deep within the Appalachian Mountains, rarely speaking to the outside world. But now, what he just said could change everything we thought we knew about his mysterious life. From government battles to personal confessions he's never shared before, Eustace's words carry the weight of years spent in isolation. This isn't just another wilderness update. It's a confession that could rewrite his entire legacy. Before we reveal what he said, make sure you subscribe and stay until the end. Because what you're about to hear may be the most revealing moment of Eustace Conway's life. For decades, Eustace Conway's life appeared to be the perfect embodiment of freedom and self-reliance. He built his home, Turtle Island Preserve, from the ground up with his bare hands, thousands of acres deep in the Appalachian wilderness. To the outside world, it looked like paradise, a living example of what it means to exist in harmony with nature. But what most never knew was how close it all came to collapsing. In the early 2000s, the state government began investigating Turtle Island for alleged code violations. Inspectors claimed his hand-built cabins, barns, and outdoor classrooms were unsafe by modern standards. They didn't understand that his buildings weren't just structures. They were living lessons, crafted to show how humans once lived before electricity and concrete. The battle that followed nearly broke him. For months, Eustace faced endless fines and legal threats, and there were nights when he sat by the fire questioning if his life's work would be torn down by the same civilization he had tried to escape. Yet, he never fought back publicly. He didn't rant on television or file lawsuits to gain sympathy. Instead, he remained silent, retreating deeper into the woods. That silence wasn't weakness, it was survival. Behind that calm, rugged face was a man losing faith in the very world he once tried to inspire. He later revealed that the emotional toll was unbearable. He felt betrayed by a system that punished him for living naturally. What the world saw as a quiet man in the mountains was, in truth, a warrior carrying invisible scars. For years, the weight of those battles shaped the man who would one day step before the world again and finally speak. When Eustace finally broke his silence, his voice carried years of pain, wisdom, and reflection. He began by saying something few expected. "People think I chose isolation because I hate society. The truth is, I was trying to save it." Those words stunned everyone listening. For the first time, he admitted that his silence was never about escaping. It was about observing. Eustace explained that he had grown tired of shouting into a world that refused to listen. Turtle Island was meant to be a living classroom, a sacred reminder of what humanity had lost. But instead, he watched visitors treat it like a tourist attraction, snapping pictures without understanding the message behind the dirt under his fingernails and the smoke rising from his campfire. He described years spent alone, speaking only to the trees, the wind, and the animals, finding more honesty in nature than in people. That isolation changed him. It made him sharper, yet lonelier. He said he stopped talking because every time he tried, the world twisted his words into something he didn't recognize. "I wasn't hiding," he said quietly. "I was listening, to the earth, to the silence, to what people had forgotten." His words painted a haunting image of a man watching the planet fade while humanity rushed toward chaos. He revealed how even simple things, like the songs of birds or the rhythm of the seasons, had begun to change, as if nature itself was crying for help. What Eustace saw in those years of solitude wasn't just environmental decline, it was spiritual decay. He said, "The further we get from nature, the further we get from ourselves." For him, silence became a form of protest, a statement louder than any speech. And now, for the first time, he's ready to use his voice again, not to complain, but to warn. "The world has changed," he said, "but not for the better. And if we don't start listening, the silence he once lived in might become the silence of the earth itself." For years, Eustace Conway avoided talking about his family, keeping those memories locked away like a hidden wound. But in his recent statement, he finally opened up about the deep emotional scars that shaped him long before Turtle Island ever existed. He revealed that his relationship with his father was far from peaceful. His father, a strict and demanding man, believed that discipline and control were the only ways to build character. Eustace grew up feeling like nothing he did was ever enough. Every achievement, every skill he mastered was met with criticism instead of pride. That constant pressure pushed him to prove his worth, not through money or fame, but through mastery of the natural world. "The woods didn't judge me," he said softly. "They accepted me when nothing else did." The wilderness became his refuge, a place where his failures didn't define him. There, surrounded by trees and rivers, he learned to survive not just physically, but emotionally. But what few knew was that his decision to disappear into nature wasn't just rebellion. It was escape. He admitted that when he first left home, he carried anger in his heart, an unspoken bitterness toward the man who never understood him. For years, that anger drove him deeper into isolation. But as time passed, he began to see things differently. Living in nature stripped away his pride and resentment, teaching him that forgiveness wasn't for others, it was for himself. Recently, he revealed that he's been quietly reconnecting with people from his past, including members of his family who once thought he'd vanished for good. He even mentioned reaching out to younger relatives, hoping to pass on lessons before it's too late. "You can't live alone forever," he said. "Even a tree needs the forest." Those words revealed a side of Eustace few had ever seen, not just the survivalist or philosopher, but the man who had finally found peace with his past. And for the first time, he seemed ready to rebuild the bridges he once burned, not for fame or forgiveness, but for closure. When asked why he chose this moment to break years of silence, Eustace's answer sent chills through the audience. "Because time is running out," he said, his voice steady but heavy with urgency. He wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about the planet. Eustace revealed that in his decades living on Turtle Island, he's witnessed environmental changes that can no longer be ignored. The springs that once ran clear now carry a faint chemical smell. Trees that stood for generations are dying faster than ever. The rhythms of nature, the migration of birds, the timing of blooms, are out of sync. To him, it's a warning that the earth is sick, and humanity is the cause. "We've traded soil for screens," he said, "and we think we're progressing." For Eustace, silence had been a form of study. He'd been observing patterns in weather, soil erosion, and animal behavior. He even kept journals, documenting subtle shifts over the years. The patterns terrified him. Storms came out of season, winters grew unpredictable, and animal paths shifted away from their natural routes. He realized these weren't coincidences, they were consequences. He said the land itself was speaking, but too few were listening. "The earth has patience," he warned, but even patience runs out. His tone hardened as he criticized modern society for losing its respect for nature. He talked about the greed that drives deforestation, the overconsumption that pollutes rivers, and the arrogance that makes humans think they can control everything. Nature doesn't need us, he said. We need her, and she's been warning us over and over again. His message wasn't political, it was personal. He spoke as a man who had watched the world decay from his own backyard. The years of quiet weren't retreat, they were reflection. Now, having seen enough, he's stepping forward to sound the alarm. If we keep going like this, he said, the silence I once lived in will be the silence of extinction. His words hung in the air like thunder, leaving even his critics without a response. Eustace Conway never set out to become a television personality. When he first appeared on Mountain Men, he saw it as a chance to share his message of simplicity and survival, not to gain fame. But what started as a platform for education quickly turned into a burden he could no longer control. In his interview, he admitted that the fame brought by television nearly destroyed the quiet life he had built. People watched me, he said, but they didn't really see me. The camera crews arrived at Turtle Island, setting up lights, cables, and schedules that clashed with the natural rhythm of his life. The simplicity he cherished turned into a performance for millions of viewers who wanted drama instead of truth. He described feeling trapped between two worlds, the pure wilderness he loved and the artificial one demanded by the audience. The more they filmed, the less real it became, he confessed. He even revealed that at times he considered walking away from the show completely, disappearing once more into silence. But something stopped him. He said that letters from viewers, many of them young people, gave him hope. They wrote about how his lifestyle inspired them to garden, build, and reconnect with nature. Those words reminded him that not everyone had forgotten what truly mattered. So, he endured the intrusion, hoping his message would reach at least one person who needed it. Still, fame took its toll. Eustace spoke about the exhaustion of constantly being observed, of strangers showing up at Turtle Island uninvited, expecting to take photos with him like he was a museum exhibit. I never wanted to be famous, he said. I wanted to be useful. Over time, the media twisted his story, turning him into a symbol rather than a man. Yet, even through that, he stayed grounded. He refused to play into celebrity culture or pretend to be something he wasn't. Now, after years of watching the world glorify the wilderness from their screens, he's made it clear. Living off the land isn't a trend, it's a truth. If all you do is watch me survive, he said, then you missed the lesson. As Eustace's voice grew softer, he began to speak about something far more personal than his land or his mission. For the first time in his life, he opened up about the people he'd lost along the way. You don't build a life like this without burying a few friends, he said, his eyes fixed on the ground. He told stories of men and women who came to Turtle Island full of passion and belief. People who wanted to help him build a dream rooted in freedom and truth. Some stayed for years, others only weeks. But not all of them made it out alive. He revealed that several close friends lost their lives in tragic accidents during the early days of the preserve, crushed by logs, swept away by floods, or lost to harsh winters. Each one left a scar on him. Every tree here holds a memory, he said. Every stone reminds me of someone who gave everything for this place. Then he spoke about a mentor he once had, an old woodsman who vanished deep in the forest one winter and was never seen again. For years, Eustace searched for him, but found nothing. Sometimes, he said, I still hear him in the wind. It was the first time anyone had seen Eustace show such raw emotion. He also addressed the rumors that swirled for years about his financial struggles and the legal fights that nearly cost him Turtle Island. He confirmed that there were times when he was days away from losing it all. "I came within an inch of signing it away," he admitted, "but something in me couldn't do it. The land doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the spirit of everyone who ever believed in it." Those words carried a quiet grief, not just for the people he lost, but for the innocence that disappeared along with them. His silence all those years, he said, wasn't just about solitude. It was about mourning. He needed time to grieve in his own way, surrounded by the only thing that had ever comforted him, the wilderness. "When you live in the wild long enough," he said, "you learn that everything you love eventually becomes part of the earth again." After years of silence and sorrow, Eustace Conway's tone shifted from warning to wisdom. Gone was the man hardened by legal battles and loneliness. What stood before the world now was a teacher reborn. His voice was calm, deliberate, and full of conviction as he spoke about the lessons the wilderness had carved into his soul. "After everything I've seen," he said, "I still believe there's hope for us." Those words carried the power of someone who had lived on the edge of both civilization and oblivion. He began by describing the strange peace he found in the quiet moments of nature, the sound of wind through pine needles, the way frost clings to bark before dawn, the silence after rain. "When you listen long enough," he said, "you realize the earth still wants us here. It just wants us to remember how to live." He explained that humanity's greatest tragedy wasn't destruction, but forgetfulness. People have forgotten the smell of real soil, the patience of growing food, the humility of relying on nature instead of conquering it. "We've built skyscrapers," he said, "but we've lost the ground beneath our feet." Yet, despite everything, Eustace didn't sound defeated. Instead, he offered a path forward. He urged people to start small, plant seeds, build with their hands, speak gently to animals, and sit outside long enough to watch the stars move. "You don't need to run to the woods," he said. "Just stop running away from yourself." He emphasized that connection begins in the heart, not the wilderness. In one powerful moment, he described standing barefoot in a stream during one of his darkest days, feeling the cold water wash over his feet. "That day," he said, "I realized the earth was forgiving me, even when I hadn't forgiven myself." That realization changed him. It reminded him that life isn't about escape. It's about belonging. He revealed that he has begun inviting young people, veterans, and families to Turtle Island once more, teaching them how to build fires, craft shelters, and reconnect with what he calls the forgotten language of the land. He's transforming the preserve into what he calls a living classroom for lost souls, a place where technology pauses and the human spirit can finally breathe. "The land healed me," he said, "and now it's time I let it heal others." As his words echoed, there was a sense that Eustace wasn't just returning to the world, he was guiding it back home. For the first time in years, his silence had turned into something powerful, a message of unity, peace, and renewal. As the interview came to a close, Eustace Conway stood in the doorway of his cabin, the fading sunlight pouring through the trees behind him, painting his face in a golden glow. It was a sight that seemed to capture his entire life's story, half in the light, half in the shadows. The man who once disappeared into the forest was now facing the world again, but this time not as a recluse or a symbol, but as a messenger. He revealed that after years of isolation, he's been writing what he calls his final gift to humanity, a book chronicling his decades in the wilderness, the lessons he's learned, and the truth about what really matters. He said it won't be a survival manual, but a guide for remembering, filled with stories about simplicity, heartbreak, resilience, and the deep bond between man and nature. Everything I've ever learned, he said, came from the land itself. I'm just the messenger. He shared that the book will document the rise and fall of Turtle Island, not as a failure, but as proof that even in chaos, the dream of balance can survive. If one child reads it, he said, and chooses a life that honors the earth, then every battle I fought was worth it. He also revealed something few knew. Over the past few years, he's been quietly mentoring young people who visit the preserve, teaching them old skills like tanning hides, blacksmithing, foraging, and horse wrangling. Many of them, he said, arrived lost and angry, but left transformed. The land doesn't just feed the body, he explained, it heals the soul. Then, his voice lowered as he spoke of the silence that once defined him. The silence wasn't because I had nothing to say, he said. It was because I was waiting for the world to be ready to listen. And now, with the world on edge and nature itself crying out, he believes that time has finally come. His final message was simple yet profound. We're not separate from nature. We are nature. Every breath we take is borrowed air. Every step we walk is borrowed ground. We have to start living like we remember that. Those words echoed like a prayer, leaving even the interviewer speechless. As the camera panned across Turtle Island, viewers could see the life Eustace had built. Simple cabins, whispering woods, and the quiet hum of existence, untouched by greed. For a moment, it felt like the world had stopped to listen. Eustace looked toward the horizon, his weathered face calm and sure, and said, "I'm not here to warn anymore. I'm here to remind." And with that, he walked back into the forest, the sound of his footsteps fading into the wind. His message lingers, a call to awaken, to live gently, and to finally hear what the earth has been trying to tell us all along.